Alrighty, so for the end of week 2, and really for the end of most weeks going forward, you're going to have a review. Now, typically a review you may have taken in the past is where you do a standard quiz that asks you a question about the content. Now, this is like that, except that it's built with AI. And in this case, it's actually been built by a group of us here at Fresno City College. And it's integrated into Canvas, and I use it in all of my courses. And so if you haven't been in my course and this is your first time, that you got this, and I'll just go over how it works. If you have been in my course before, please watch because it is a new version this year, or this semester, this spring 2025 semester. All right. So this review will consist of 5 concept questions, 5 coding questions from querying part 1, 2, and 3, because that's what you've been through at this point. So I have some do's and don'ts. So first thing is commit to the sit. And what that means is once you start the attempt, you do have to complete it. Saving for later with AI is kind of hard, and it's something we haven't been able to do yet. And honestly, it should be doable to get through these. I've noticed based on past students somewhere, the average is between 25 and 35 minutes to get through that, but you may have more or less. There is a time limit of 55, which I believe should be doable for the students who have been working on this for the past 2 years. Students have actually been interacting with this for a little bit, but please reach out if you have any questions. Now, once you start it, you actually need to get all the way to the submit, and I'm going to show you this today because that's king. To receive credit, you must reach the end and click submit assignment. If you don't do that, Canvas doesn't even acts like it never happened. Now, do know though, if you start a submit or start an attempt but don't complete it, I get noticed on the back end, and that is what you want to do is make sure you don't do that, because if I see that happen again and again, I'll be reaching out and have a conversation with you, okay, because it's not the intent. So manage your time. There's a 55-minute timer, and I will show you how that timer is viewed, and check it out if you feel like you're running close. Now, here's the other thing is use the right gear. Use a laptop or a desktop. This does not work well on mobile. And the reason it doesn't, honestly, is that mobile browsers actually tend to refresh more often. And in this case, if you do that, it actually restarts the attempt. And that's what you don't want to have happen. Okay. Now, take it. Practice makes perfect, right? So take this review multiple times to improve your score. Just remember, every time you start, and that's what I was just saying, a new attempt is logged. So make sure you finish it. I will only, okay, grade the last attempt. So here's my general approach. I suggest is take it without looking at your notes or without looking at the code. See if you can answer the questions and do the coding challenges. Then if you take it again, maybe before you do that, review that content. Now, the reason I say that is kind of what moves into the don'ts. Like, don't use Gen AI. Don't use that to answer the question, because this is technical interview practice. In a real job interview and in our technical interview, you won't have an AI assistant. Build your coding muscle now. And this relates to what I said before, is if you start a quiz and abandon it without submitting, it's recorded as a complete attempt, and which can negatively impact your grade. Okay, so if I see this happening a lot, I will definitely reach out. Now, from the time I got in here and just went over this content, the session actually expired. Actually, I had ran through it a minute ago. So if you see this, here it's okay to hit a refresh, okay? So what you really want to see is this right here, which this tool needs to be loaded in a new browser window, and then you click here. Now what will happen is it does just that. Now it's still part of Canvas, okay? And then in this case, it gives you a little content. Here's the timer. Eventually that timer will just have the icon for the clock. So if you want to see it after a little while, you go back there, and then it just says click start to begin, okay? So then it actually sends a prompt over. Now, in this case, what's happening is in the background, we're communicating with OpenAI, but none of your personal information is being sent over. I just want you to know that's part of what we definitely made sure of when we were using it. Now, a couple things. Here is the steps. So in this case, there's Q1, Q2 through Q5 are concept questions, and then C1 through C5 are coding questions, and then the feedback is where you get to the end, and then you will see the submit, and I'll show you that. Okay, so if you kind of want to see where you're at, just scroll over here. This tells you what you need, like this is what you need to do once you're ready. Now in this case, and I'll show you what I mean by when you get to the next one. You put your answer in here. You are going to have just concept questions. And now if you don't get it right, and let me just give you an example. So I'm going to go ahead and click Q1. Okay, so what's the specific security performance risk of using a spreadsheet compared to a database handling massive amounts of data? Let's see, security is important. Now, that's not a complete answer, right? It's true, right? And then in this case, the AI is trying to help you give a complete answer, okay? So you can reply again. Now, once you get what it considers the complete answer, it'll say, hey, click on Q2, okay? So what you want to do here is, attempt to answer again, give it another answer, okay? Now, what I'm going to do next is just get to the end. So I'm going to pause for just a second. So one thing I want to say about the coding, and I could have stopped earlier, but you need to make sure you're using the styling that we're learning with Carter, right? So as an example, if you have a specified column, right, if you have more than that, you're using SQL commands, they need to be capitalized, right? Right? And in this case, whatever else you do here or whatever, make sure you're using that good styling, okay? So as an example, let's say I did that. And also, semicolon here. So in this case, you're on the right track, right? And so it gives you another try. Now, I'm not going to take that, but I just want you to see that style is also taken into consideration when you're doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next one, right? And then here is the last one. And again, I'm not showing you answering them all. I'm just giving you the way it works. So now, really important, when you hit feedback, notice how the button changes and you get some content. So in real review, I will review and score your session, okay? The recap is there just to tell you the concepts that were covered. Now, it's really important at this point that you actually submit this, because if you don't, you won't see it show up in Canvas. Now, I want you to see what happens, because there's a little bit of a thing that we're working on, and hopefully we'll have it fixed soon. But watch what happens once you hit submit. So your assignment is being submitted, please wait, and then you get this little pop-up. Now what's happening over here is your assignment has been submitted and you can close the window. But the truth is you can't until that little pop-up goes away. The reason this is hard is that pop-up, based on your internet connection and the whole internet as in general, can have a varying amount of time to do that, okay? So now at this point you can no longer interact. I mean, you could, but nothing happens, because if you now, and I'm going to show you this, go ahead and close this window. And when you come back to Canvas, and I'm just going to leave the student view, I want you to know that what happens is that actually got submitted. That session got submitted into Canvas, okay, for you. So then I go in and review it and I will grade it. So what's really important here is if you have any challenges, and by the way, Chrome I think works best. I wouldn't recommend Internet Explorer. Firefox I found works fine, but Chrome I found works the best for this. And like I said, desktop and all the other suggestions I gave you. Okay, remember, you can take it multiple times. It is really your practice for the technical interview to see how well you're translating the concepts. I hope this helps you out, and I'll talk to you later.